What drives the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? A struggle that has spanned over a century and continues to shape global politics. Our story begins in the late 19th century with Theodor Herzl, who founded the World Zionist Organization in 1897. The organization was driven by an aspiration to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine, a region tucked under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. In the years that followed, Jewish immigration to Palestine surged, sparking the first sparks of discontent. You see, this land had been home to the local Arab population for centuries. As Jewish immigrants poured in, the Arab locals began to perceive this as an encroachment on their homeland. By 1948, the Jewish population in Palestine had swelled to over 600,000, fueling tension and unease. The simmering tension eventually boiled over into widespread violence in the late 1930s during what is now known as the Arab Revolt. It marked a significant turning point, a moment of escalation in a conflict that was just beginning to take shape. This was only the beginning of a conflict that would intensify in the years to come. The seeds of conflict sown in the early 20th century would soon bear bitter fruit. The United Nations, fresh from the ashes of World War II, proposed a plan in 1947 to partition Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. This plan was met with jubilation by the Jewish community, who viewed it as a vital step towards a long-desired homeland. Yet for the Arab states, this partition was an unacceptable imposition, and they promptly rejected the proposal. In the face of this opposition, Israel declared its independence in 1948, marking a pivotal moment in history. This declaration ignited the First Arab-Israeli War, a brutal conflict that resonated across the globe. Arab nations rallied together, intent on quelling the newly formed Jewish state, but Israel held its ground. Amidst this turmoil, a humanitarian crisis was unfolding. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were uprooted from their homes, either fleeing the violence or expelled outright. These displaced people became refugees, their lives irrevocably changed by a conflict not of their making. The borders had been drawn, but peace was nowhere in sight. The year 1967 marked a significant turning point in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In what is known as the Six-Day War, Israel launched a preemptive strike against neighboring Arab states. In a swift and stunning victory, Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem from Jordan and Egypt. These territories are home to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, and their capture by Israel dramatically altered the dynamics of the conflict. Following the Six-Day War, Israel began establishing settlements in these newly occupied territories. These settlements, viewed as illegal by much of the international community, became a source of deep resentment among Palestinians. They saw their land being taken and their homes demolished to make way for these new settlements. Moreover, Israel's military rule over these territories led to a harsh life for many Palestinians. Checkpoints, curfews, and the constant presence of Israeli soldiers became a part of daily life. These conditions, coupled with the continued expansion of settlements, fueled a deep-seated anger and frustration among Palestinians. The struggle for control over these territories would ignite further violence. This marked the beginning of an intense and bloody chapter in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the repercussions of which are still felt today. The late 20th century saw moments of hope, but also deepening divisions. This era was marked by the First and Second Intifadas, periods of intense Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation. The First Intifada began in 1987, characterized by widespread civil disobedience and protests. The Second Intifada, from 2000 to 2005, was far more violent, with suicide bombings and military operations resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. In the midst of these uprisings, the Oslo Accords arrived in 1993 as a beacon of hope. These agreements established limited Palestinian self-rule in the West Bank and Gaza. They were seen as the first step on a roadmap to peace, but the core issues of the conflict remained unresolved. A significant shift occurred in 2006 when the Islamist party Hamas won the Palestinian elections. This victory created a rift with the secular Fatah party in the West Bank, leading to a split in governance between the two Palestinian territories. In response to Hamas's takeover of Gaza, Israel imposed a blockade, restricting the movement of people and goods in and out of the area. Despite these obstacles, the quest for peace continued, yet the deep-seated issues that fuel the conflict remained, making the path to resolution more complex. The stage was set for a new era of conflict. Today, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved, with both sides holding starkly different visions for the future. The continued expansion of Israeli settlements in occupied territories fuels resentment among Palestinians. Meanwhile, the situation in the Gaza Strip is dire. With borders closed, there's little to no access to humanitarian aid. The recent escalation of violence has further deepened the crisis, claiming thousands of lives and raising fears of an imminent ground operation in southern Gaza. Despite the ongoing turmoil, the prospect for a two-state solution seems dim. Palestinians seek an independent state in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, yet Israel considers these areas vital for its security. The differences are stark, and decades of conflict have done little to bridge the gap. In this volatile landscape, unity and peace seem like a distant dream. The world watches, hopes, and waits. But the question remains, will there ever be a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?